Hey, Tatooine Sons family. By now, you've seen Chapter 24 of The Mandalorian, and if you listened to our last episode, well, you already know that I'm the smartest Star Wars fan on this show, but it will be fun for me to rub it in a little more over the next half hour. This is Tatooine Sons.
It's true. All of it.
What is the name of the porg on the Millennium Falcon?
Force is strong in my family.
What do you think his name is? It's a big moment.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Maybe Turbis?
Do or do not. There is no try.
Turbis? Pablo, if you're listening to this live stream, that porg's name is now Turbis. It's a good Star Wars name.
We're not done yet.
These guys recorded an awesome podcast called Tatooine Sons. Everybody listen to it.
We did.
Finally.
Yes. We get the cool Obi-Wan Kenobi outfit.
What?
We pre-ordered it. We get a bonus since we pre-ordered it. It's
A cosmetic bonus.
cosmetic. So now we have the Obi-Wan Kenobi outfit and lightsaber and blaster from the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. So it's the
that's
hermit.
cool.
He has the goggles that he wears on Tatooine, and he has the whole get up and all that stuff. And we get Obi-Wan's lightsaber. It's
We could have paid like $20 more and gotten like a kind of Han Solo
the
look.
Han Solo look, the DL-44.
Well, why didn't you get the Han Solo?
It was
$20 more.
$90.
Why didn't somebody tell me about that before you ordered?
And then
We can refund it
we
if you really
can.
want it.
And then the other outfit is the Rebel Hero outfit, and it's Luke Skywalker's throne room.
And you-
Oh, with the yellow jacket?
with the yellow jacket.
That's cool.
Luke
Now I've got
Skywalker's lightsaber.
a medal ceremony song in my
And
head.
then with it is a R2-D2 skin for BD1,
So obviously they're
Okay.
talking about Jedi Survivor.
Of course.
They ordered it coming out this Friday.
which I
It'll
found
be-
out that the series is Star Wars Jedi, and then whatever the tagline is. So in this one, it's Star Wars Jedi Survivor.
And the other one was Star Wars Jedi
Fallen Order.
So it's like Star Wars Jedi colon.
Yes, not Star Wars Jedi Survivor, Jedi Fallen Order. It's
Star Wars
just
Jedi.
Survivor.
Now you know.
Yep, I found that out
Dun,
today.
dun, dun, dun.
I was waiting for that.
All right, welcome to Tatooine Sons. We believe that pop culture is the mythology of this generation, that there is a story. It is written on our souls, and that these myths speak to that story. And that's why we talk about Star Wars Jedi Survivor.
Yeah, there you go.
Good job.
And The Mandalorian. And all the other Star Wars stuff that we talk about, and Lord of the Rings when we get to that, and Marvel. It's been a while since we've talked about anything other than Star Wars.
It has been a while. It's been a good time in Star
That'll
Wars.
shift though in a
Since the
couple of
last
weeks.
time we recorded, haven't we seen? No, we already saw Return of the King in theaters.
Yeah, you guys had
since
last
last
that
time.
last time. But let's see.
running.
Next week we'll be talking about Visions
And Return of the Jedi.
Volume 2, and we get to go see Return of the Jedi this weekend.
Yeah.
Both of the Return of
They
the
just
movies.
got it in a theater here in our area. There wasn't going to be. I'd checked it regularly, and then
One of the movies must have not performed well, and they had spots
they
for it to be
pulled it in
open.
yesterday, so we got tickets for it.
Nice.
And so we're
And
gonna,
I have 11 comics to get.
so it's time to go to the comic
It
book
is a little
store.
bit of time to go to the comic store.
But then I think after that, it's going to sort of shift to Marvel conversation,
It
because
is.
we'll be having Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're going to be getting Secret Invasion soon.
We will be,
Yeah.
yes.
And some other things. So
And Sweet Tooth.
And
We are
Sweet
getting that.
Tooth.
I forgot about
About
that.
dang time.
Is that
Get
out
that,
yet?
2 days.
Okay.
3 days. 3 days till we get it.
Well, last week was our kind of build up to the finale of season 3 of The Mandalorian, chapter 24. Chapter 24. Is that what it was? That was,
I think so.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
'Cause
It's only
it's
been 24 episodes of Mandalorian.
3 seasons times 8
Wow.
episodes. That's 24.
Feels like there's been less than that.
Oh, I thought there was more.
24. And we did our predictions sure to go wrong on that. So let's go through and see if we got any of these right or wrong. I guess I'll start with you, BB Nate. Yours was you stole mine.
Well, I thought of it first.
You say you thought of it first. I had already
did.
thought of it.
You thought of it like 2 minutes before we started recording. I thought about it while we were rewatching the episode before.
Okay. So what was yours?
It was that Grogu is gonna come rescue Mando and his IG-12 suit armor thing, and he did.
He basically did.
He didn't have as much of a rampage as I was hoping for.
I'm not sure how they would have been able to handle
exactly. I didn't know
giving him full IG-11
like capabilities. Yeah, I didn't.
And him just like going.
No, and I don't think that Grogu would do
John
that.
Wick on everybody out there. You know.
But no, he did. He went back for Mando to rescue him, and he did help rescue Mando. And then he did some cool flips later in the episode while giggling. He was just having a good time.
It was good. Mine was that the remnants were on Mandalore. The remnants that were left behind were going to be the spies, and we were
that did not pan
But
out.
it's kind of no, it's not right. I didn't get it right at all.
No.
Not in the way you were
Mine
thinking.
was the most wrong.
Yours was.
I thought Din Djarin wasn't going to make it out. I was far off.
And I told
which
you
I'm
last
okay
week
with.
that couldn't happen because Dave Filoni said it's going to be a happy, satisfying conclusion, and it was.
It was.
Both of those. So we should probably get into why.
Yeah, let's talk about it for a few minutes here. So,
Good segue. Which is not spelled the way I thought. It's spelled weird.
Segway.
not like the
Segway.
device. Do you know the guy that invented the Segway died by
Driving off a
Segway?
cliff, yeah.
With the Segway.
I know. It's wild.
Anyway, let's talk a little bit about deaths. Grogu, Nate, there was a moment
I
in there
know.
that kind of it felt like
It
a
hurt.
moment of Star Wars Rebels. Let's talk about that.
So
for
many
just a
ways
minute.
it hurt. Grogu saving Bo-Katan and Din Djarin by holding back the flames. Right as I saw it, I made that connection.
I was sitting there and I was like, "Where have we seen
I know.
this
And right as I
before?
saw it, I'm like, Kanan, he did this. He didn't survive. And it hurts so much because, first of all, Kanan didn't survive and he sacrificed himself and he wasn't powerful enough to be able to stop that. But Grogu, this little tiny
Baby Yoda,
is able to stop it and is completely fine. And so it just makes that Kanan death hurt so much more. And they had to, of course, remind us of that death after we've somehow
Begun to
started
heal.
to move past
The scars had
I know,
started
and
to
then they
form.
just dig it right
And
in
they
there.
opened up that
like
wound
Kanan
again.
wasn't powerful enough. This little baby can do it better than he can.
Well, I don't think it's that way.
But he also Grogu was putting his full power on stopping that flame,
And he was closer to them.
and he was closer. And Kanan had all of his power, but then he pushed Hera back, and so he couldn't focus all on it. And then that's when he died.
You've thought this through much more detailed than I expected you to have thought this.
I
through.
didn't honestly.
He
I
hasn't
didn't
slept
even.
since the finale. He's been.
I honestly didn't
mulling
know this was
over.
going to be a part of it. I haven't thought of it, but it's just flooding everything about it. It's just making me remember all the trauma.
But you kind of see it from a perspective of Kanan was too weak. Sam, could it be actually that they're setting up the reality that Din Grogu, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Actually, I don't think I have it on the list, but we'll talk about it. Din Grogu is actually just so much more powerful as a Jedi. Like his Force abilities are amplified even so much more significant than one of our favorite Jedi.
I think that is the case. I mean, he is of the same species as Yoda, and I guess if we assume that species just happens to be more in tune with the Force.
Well, we've only seen 3 of those species, and they've all been Jedi, and 2 of them were Masters.
Right. So, it's pretty safe.
Now I'm thinking about Yaddle's death in Tales of the Jedi.
that was sad.
Anyway.
Yeah, I think it's safe to assume that, he is going to be an extremely powerful Force user. We saw that even in the first season with barely any, retraining since Order 66. He was able to lift a mudhorn.
That was his first real Force moment.
Right.
we saw.
So I think it's definitely safe to assume that he's going to be an extremely powerful Jedi. Not that Kanan was a weak Jedi. It's just, I think Kanan, even compared to Yoda, it wouldn't be.
No, I don't think that Kanan ever was to the point of being a great Jedi. I'm not saying that he's weak, but I just don't think he was ever as strong as everyone else in the Jedi because he never really trained after Order 66. He
suppressed his
Force
Force
completely
abilities for a
suppressed his
long
Force.
time.
And that's why he saw Ezra and understood that he was so powerful. I think that Ezra at that point was more powerful than Kanan towards the end and was able to figure that out by Kanan's training. So
he was able to control multiple Purgles at once.
Yeah.
So, or
By the way,
Purgle.
Purgle.
Yeah, I know. I
plural.
corrected myself.
It's like deer and deer,
oh dear.
or lamb and lambs. No, it doesn't work that way. Okay. So let's, while we're here, while we're talking about it, how do you guys feel about the
Name change.
the name change, Din Grogu?
I like it. It looks.
I thought it was
sounds
cute.
awesome.
So I guess Din Djarin's first name isn't
last
Djarin. Is Djarin. Yeah, I guess for
Djarin
whatever
Din.
reason.
Sounds cool.
I guess for whatever reason in that culture, it's
So wait,
it's
Just
last
they're just like their
first.
names are like legal documents.
Yeah,
Yeah.
basically, which always confuses
They
me
like
why do
found
that.
Din Djarin or Djarin Din in that little hole, and he had his ID on him, but it was backwards.
So they
and
just called him
started
Din
calling
Djarin.
him that.
So it's
Yeah.
like Logan's origin, you know,
Right.
like part of his name tag was scratched off, so they just went with whatever Logan was, even though I think that was his last name or something
yeah,
like that.
exactly. But no, I love Din Grogu.
Yeah, it's cool.
We've been referring to Din Grogu, as a Jedi in his abilities and things.
I
but
guess he's not a Jedi.
he's
though.
not a Jedi.
That's why I was saying Force, trying to say Force user.
Do we think that he somehow continues to develop his Force abilities? Is that where they're going in the story? I know we'll talk a little bit more about the direction of the story later, but does it feel like that he's going to continue to develop those abilities, or are they just going to be he's a Mandalorian going forward? Don't go too far, Nate. We'll talk about that later too. But he's a Mandalorian, or is a foundling or whatever.
I'll save my stuff for
And
you.
then he just has Force abilities. Where is it going with that?
I think he's going to continue to grow in his Force abilities, and as a result of that, he's going to have to confront the dark side at some point. Every Force user does in their journey. What it comes down to is who's there to help him in that moment, right? I don't know when that'll be, but I think the person who's supposed to help him out is Ahsoka, unless that moment comes too late and it's Ezra who has to help him.
That'd be cool.
But
Wow, that would be pretty cool if Ezra took on Din Grogu as his apprentice.
that would be pretty incredible. Although it'd be kind of confusing because he'd probably be like, Yoda, is that you? But, no, but
Ahsoka didn't seem to have
That's
much of
true.
a problem with it.
but Ahsoka didn't refer to herself as Jabba the Hutt.
Yeah, that's
the
just a
time.
little
So
bit funnier. Has a little bit more humor to
I'm
himself.
totally confused right now. Okay, let's keep going. Actually, one of the opening. Were you guys surprised at how quickly Din Djarin and Grogu, but Din Djarin was able to how early on in the episode Din Djarin escapes from the Death Troopers
No.
and begins his pursuit of Gideon? Were you surprised by how early that happened?
oh, the timing?
Yeah,
No, I mean,
you thought he was going to die, so
well, okay, when I clearly saw that probably wasn't going to happen, I pivoted, okay? No, based on the story they were trying to tell, it seemed like they wanted things to move pretty quick, and we all saw that the runtime was shorter than anticipated. I think it still worked based on the runtime, but they didn't have as much time to flesh out, a long sequence for Din Djarin to be captured with. So it makes sense that they got him to break out quick. I do appreciate though how he still struggled to get out. It wasn't easy for him. He almost lost, and then your boy Grogu, Terminator Grogu came in there and helped him out. But it worked for the story, I think. So
what about you, Nate? Were you surprised at how early that
Not at
happened?
all. No, because the run time was so short. I knew that they had to move things along, and it makes sense. I mean, Grogu's not going to go back and then go back in to be able to save Mando. He was already there, so he was going to go find him, and it's not much time that would pass at that point. So it all made sense to me. It wasn't surprising.
I kind of thought that the whole episode was going to be about Din getting away and Grogu coming and helping him and all of that. So I was a little surprised by that. But in that moment, he gets away and he starts trying to go and pursue Moff Gideon.
And you got his hallway scene.
We got the hallway scene. It was a little
Yeah.
different of a hallway scene than we
was
saw with
cool,
Vader
though.
or with Luke, but it did end with a hallway scene. It's funny, the first finale of season 1 had sort of a hallway scene if you think about
Kind
it, with
of.
IG-11 and the
second one had a hallway scene.
And obviously the Luke Skywalker scene, but this one has a hallway scene as well.
This is more Daredevil-esque hallway scene.
Okay, I'll give you that. But it also had it kind of, I mean, obviously reminded you of Qui-Gon Jinn.
Oh,
at the
yeah.
beginning
Yes,
of-
definitely with the laser
ray shields.
shields. Yeah, that reminded me a lot. And then having to get them down one by one. It felt like a video game at that point, you know.
He kept leveling up too, like getting better gear and stuff.
Yeah,
it was cool.
It was awesome.
Can I like
No.
play? I don't know. I was going to say devil's advocate, but I don't think that's exactly where I'm going. Unless you want to say that all the people that are toxic are devils, but I'm not trying to be toxic here is what I mean by that, but let me just play that part. Why doesn't the Empire or the First Order or whoever they are at this point in the story, I don't know if they know who they are yet, but anyway, the former Empire, why don't they just lift up all the shields and let all of those guards come after him at once?
Because they tried to.
The R5
was blocking
jamming it.
Okay.
Because you heard
he was that's right. He was just opening it.
He was like, "Hey, open the next one. Open the next one."
Well,
And they
why-
went back. They went back to the control board and were trying to open them. The ones in the far back. They were trying to.
Were
open
they
them.
okay? I
Yeah.
didn't pick that up.
Yeah.
But it was messing with my head a little bit. What do you guys think about the fact that R5 is a hero now?
It's awesome. The best redemption arc in Star Wars. It's awesome. I was so happy for him.
Vader holds nothing against
R5.
R5.
The true hero of
found
Star
his
Wars
motivation.
universe. Yes.
His motivator.
His motivator. It's funny because I remember when the original From a Certain Point of View for A New
I
Hope
remember
came
that
out,
story, too.
And there's that story in there of him, and it's a cool character. It's a cool story.
It really makes a difference. Yeah, you see it very differently.
Like he's having a conversation with R2, isn't he? In that,
Yeah, and he realizes that R2's mission is more important than him getting free, getting to a home, R5. So he blows his own
R5
motivator,
blows his own motivator
almost
in this story.
killing himself in a way. He
was a hero all the way back in that.
Yep. Star Wars, the true hero of the Star Wars universe.
Is R5D4.
Yep. Always will be.
The whole story falls apart if he isn't the hero.
It's like Endgame and the rat that let Scott Lang out of the
There you go.
van.
That's R5. That's so funny, but it's fun to see how I guarantee you in the writer's room at some point when the idea was we need to get a droid in here for season 3 and he's going to be a part of this, somebody was like, let's do R5, and they started telling the From a Certain Point of View story, and Favreau and Filoni and the writers room people were like, all right, let's go, let's do it
for sure.
Yeah.
And I love that, and obviously we've got From a Certain Point of View coming out this fall.
Yeah, for Return of the Jedi.
Yeah,
For Return of the Jedi. And Mr. Adam Lance Garcia, been a guest on our show multiple times, a friend of the show.
Neat dude.
Gets his opportunity.
Nice.
I will remind everyone, if you were listening, I guess it's been almost 3 years now. Good gravy. It's been, or at least 2 years. Adam was on our show, and we were having a conversation with him, and his dream at the time, he was talking about it on the show. His dream was to write a Star Wars. And we made him promise that if he ever got a chance to do that, we were going to be his first interview. And so pull back the curtain just a little bit and talk about how we found out that Adam was writing a story in this a couple of days before the release of the authors for From a Certain Point of View, Return of the Jedi.
We got the scoop.
We didn't know we got the scoop. He was being careful about his NDA with it, but he sent a message to us on Twitter, and he's like, I think you need to book me for September. And I replied back, and I'm like, what are you coming to Alabama? Do you need a place to stay? What is this? And I had no idea what he was talking about, and he never responded to it. And then I saw the From a Certain Point of View author list get released by StarWars.com because I get notifications on Twitter whenever they tweet something. I saw that, and I saw him on that list, and within a few seconds of that, he replied, and he was like, no, I got to be on the show, and he was reminding me of all that.
Awesome.
So
it's gonna be awesome.
That was pretty cool. Maybe his story will end up being a part of the future of Star Wars
That'd be
in some
crazy.
significant way, a character that he fleshes out further.
That'd be awesome.
Love that.
With that, let's talk a little bit more about about some of the other stories, because Adam, he was on that episode. I remember him talking about, he was a massive Legends or expanded universe fan, Heir to the Empire, Thrawn stuff, all of those things with it. And it's interesting. I don't know if you guys picked up on this. You probably didn't. It's amazing to me when I hear these things and I see certain moments that I'm like, I must have been more into the EU than I remember, like reading stuff with it. Books and things back in the mid 90s with it, because when Gideon shows his clones in the facility there on Mandalore, and you see that it's his clones, and all of the things that he's talking about them being sort of like force sensitive and all of this, I started being like, I kind of like what we were doing with the Kanan thing. Mm-hmm. I was like, where have I seen this, or where do I before? And it was from the expanded universe. There's a storyline. I can't remember for sure where it is. It's not Heir to the Empire. It's not that trilogy, the Thrawn trilogy. It's a later series in that, where after Thrawn has been killed in that storyline.
Spoilers.
Well, I mean, it's been 30 years. So Luke finds a facility where Thrawn was creating clones of himself. And they were force sensitive, and he actually struggles, and the clones are destroyed.
Is this Dark Empire or Dark Forces?
I don't remember. That the clones are actually destroyed by flooding the thing, and so all of that sort of happened.
Yeah.
In this, what did you think about the Gideon clones thing?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. We knew he was making force sensitive clones. I didn't. It makes sense now, but I didn't figure it was going to be Gideon himself. But in the semi-finale, he did say, the best addition to this new Dark Trooper armor is it's got me in it. So looking back, of course, he would clone himself. He's full of himself.
So do you think he's a clone in that armor?
He might be.
That's a theory that's out there.
No, because he wasn't force sensitive in any way.
I think the new ones aren't force sensitive.
No, he said
that's what he said they were. He said he was trying to make them force sensitive.
He was trying to, but was never able to get Grogu's blood.
Oh, that's true.
So he just made plain clones of himself?
He made clones, and he was going to try to capture Grogu at that point and use him, but was never able to get to that part.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe. I don't know why, though. Like, I don't see the point. I mean, what happened to the OG Gideon? Maybe OG Gideon is off somewhere else as a contingency in case his clone died.
Well, I mean, you never saw him die either, so that's always
true. And he was in like this super fancy high tech armor. He's not dead. No way is Gideon dead. They don't make him look that cool and that important just for him to die off the next episode.
Except, may I remind you, Phasma, and Boba Fett before they
but he's back. We're good. Maybe in this new Rey story that's taking place, Phasma will show back up. Because
that was kind of a cop-out death, too.
Phasma's death in The Last Jedi? Yeah, come on, Ryan. Jeez.
Come on.
No, but seriously, do you think that Gideon is gone, or is he coming back?
I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, due to the fact that they did break him out, but we don't know if he was alive or dead at that point when he was broken out. We just know that he wasn't there. The body at least wasn't. So very well could have been used to make more clones, and this one could very well be a clone, but I don't see them. I feel like if it was a clone, they would have made that more obvious at this point, because they already revealed he had clones and they didn't. So, and all those other clones are dead. So I don't think that he's a clone. I'm pretty sure. And I don't think he's dead. I think that we're going to see more of him eventually, maybe in Ahsoka or Mando season 4. But
see, I think he's gone. Here's why. All right. I think this actually fixes a question, or it's not necessarily a plot hole, but a lingering question that comes from the Rise of Skywalker with Palpatine's return, right? So it's 30 years that this was going on, and Palpatine can't find a suitable, like, non-deformed version of himself or host, a clone host, with this. And if he had access to all of the cloning advances that the Kaminoans had, that Pershing was developing, who's now his brain scrambled, so he no longer has that knowledge at this point, and everything that's happened on Mandalore up to this point. If he has access to that, he has a better shot at developing a clone host at this point. I think that Gideon's death is a part of this, and the destruction of the cloning facility and everything going on there on Mandalore is what sets Palpatine and the First Order back enough to make it delay for 30 years. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it makes sense. And now Thrawn can take the role of the overarching villain.
Thrawn's the bad guy in season 4.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah,
the bad guy for the rest of the
I can see that
season series.
So
yeah, I think that's a good point. I like that.
So it did feel, I know we talked a little bit about this with some friends, which I'll tease that in a little bit, but yesterday on something we were doing, but curious, when we finished up this episode, he's at the Flintstones house with Grogu, because if you check out what the Flintstones house looks like, and Mando's new place on, what is the name of the planet?
Navarro.
Grief Cart Navarro. It looks the same. But anyway, if it felt like the series was over. It felt like it was sort of a wrap up.
Could have been
on that
spot.
I'll start with you, Sam. Do you think that there was a point where they were just kind of like, let's end this thing, and then decided not to, and they're going to continue it, or what's going on?
I mean, Favreau came out with in an interview, halfway through the season, saying, "Oh, they've got more in plan for this story." So I don't think they were ever planning on the story being over, especially with the announcement of Filoni's movie that's going to be, tying up this storyline along with Ahsoka and Skeleton Crew and things like that. So I don't think they ever wanted it to end. I think it's the close to the first trilogy. You've had seasons 1, 2, and 3, and now you need a good stopping spot for a bit.
So do you think they're going to continue with another trilogy of seasons, or do you think it's just going to pivot towards an expanded Mandoverse with Ahsoka and other Skeleton Crew and with other series?
Yeah, I think it's going to take a break from Mando for a minute. I think that's why they ended it like that. It was a good chill ending. Mando's kind of chilling, taking some chill. I'm saying chill a lot.
Chill. He's pretty chill.
He's taking some easy jobs. Grogu's, just hanging out there. So it's a good satisfactory spot for them to let Mando do his thing while they focus on some other storylines to help better set up the movie, right? The Filoni's movie. It's not too dissimilar from Marvel. They did a few Iron Man movies, right? Like they did a couple Iron Man movies, and then they did some other movies there to kind of help set it up, and then it all led together in one movie, right? They set this character up, they're gonna do the other storylines and bring it all together.
Mm-hmm. What about you, BB Nate? What did you think about the way that they ended this, and did it feel like it was a nice tidy tie up, or do you feel like it needs to continue, or is going to continue? Or
no, I feel like it was always meant to continue. I feel like this was a great ending of the trilogy, the first book, because they've been calling it chapters. I really did think it was very well done, very satisfying. I was happy with where it left off. It was a good, solid ending, but also left room for more to breathe. It wasn't a finale. It was kind of just an epilogue at that point. And I really think that, like what Sam said, it's going to be setting up stuff with new series leading up to the movie. I don't think we have 3 more seasons in Mando, but maybe 1 or 2, and then 2 seasons
and then tied
of
up with the film
Ahsoka, and then
like
maybe a couple seasons of Skeleton Crew, and then the final movie with Filoni.
I wasn't meaning like they're done making Mando. I just think they're going to take a break for a minute or sprinkle it in a little bit here and there. Okay. I wouldn't be surprised if we see his character show up in the other shows like Book of Boba Fett, even though that was just Mando season 2.5. So,
as our resident Boba Fett fan, he says that with an edge,
I like the show.
Edge to him. I think if you went back and rewatched it, it would probably sit differently.
Yeah,
with you. A lot of people feel that way with it. Maybe after school. finishes up for the semester.
Yeah,
You have time to do
I
some
gotta
of
get
that.
through this semester.
I got a couple more weeks on that. It is interesting that StarWars.com listed some of the big moments in the finale, chapter 24 of The Mandalorian, and they said that they listed the ending as a new quest. So they listed it as in like something new is beginning with that.
Yeah.
So obviously he's going to be working with Carson Teva with that, which is going to be
secretly
cool.
with the New Republic.
See, if anything, it just feels like it's back at the beginning almost. Just now he's got a kid. He's taking small jobs.
He did adopt him, so
That was
kind of
adorable.
cool.
That's what. Yeah. Oh yeah. No, we can't brush over that fact. Him
That was
adopting Grogu is awesome. But I mean, it's not too dissimilar to how we found him in the beginning of season 1. He was just taking odd jobs from this one guy. At that time, it was Grief Karga. He didn't have as shiny a suit of armor, or a kid, but ultimately it was roughly the same lifestyle for him.
Maybe the same lifestyle, but it's a different purpose. Because now he's working alongside the New Republic, and I think that real quick, do you guys feel like this season was able to shift things in such a way that the idea that was the Rangers of the New Republic before Gina Carano's exit from Star Wars, do you think that has now been established with maybe Carson Teva moving into that role?
Probably. And at this point, yeah. I agree. I think that it's kind of moved over to where it could be Mando and Carson Teva kind of being a ranger of the New Republic. It would make sense, and it kind of allows that to breathe now. And it's not a uncomfortable way to write that part out of the show. It fits, and it melded well with what we were wanting.
One last thing, because this will help you, Nate, be able to gloat for just a little bit.
Yeah, of course.
Because you've been saying some things, and you've definitely want to get it out.
Said I was wrong.
Yeah, well, it hasn't been proven right yet. But I will say this: if you're a lightsaber and you see the Praetorian Guard coming at you, you probably want to go the other direction.
Yeah.
With it, because obviously in The Last Jedi, a lightsaber that survived pretty much everything, including falling off of Cloud City, got destroyed.
Yeah.
In The Last Jedi by Praetorian Guards, and the Darksaber has now been destroyed.
Yeah.
But you think that this actually confirms something for you?
It does
maybe,
confirm
Nate?
something, at least for me, yeah. So I am a firm believer, and have been for a little while now, that the Mandalorian is Din Grogu. It makes a ton of sense, because this show wasn't introduced with Din Djarin earlier in his career, and then eventually Grogu was led into it. First episode, we got introduced to Grogu at the end there. And it wasn't about Bo-Katan. We didn't see her whole career leading up to where she's at now. She just came in at this point and is now a part of this show. But this has been about Grogu the entire show. And one of the things that y'all said just couldn't work out is he couldn't wield the Darksaber. It's too big for him. He wouldn't be able to hold it, and it just doesn't work out. Well, now the Darksaber is gone. We don't have that anymore. He is a Force-using potential. He's going to become a Mandalorian at some point. So he could be able to forge the next Darksaber and be a Jedi Mandalorian, both, because that's what happened with the first guy. I don't remember the first guy's name.
Pre-Vizsla, I think.
Is that
Not Paz, Pre.
It's Pre-Vizsla. Yeah, Pre-Vizsla was a Jedi Mandalorian that forged the Darksaber. And so Grogu can do that now. And Grogu awoke the Mythosaur at the end of this season, and I'm pretty sure he did it in episode 2 of season 3 as well. It wasn't Bo, it was Grogu, because he was there too. So, yeah, Grogu's the Mandalorian, and that's what this whole show has been about. Him, for sure.
You see, I really do like the idea. I tease you about it just because it is out there, but it's not that out there. The main issue I have with it is I couldn't see that happening until he's well older.
There could be a significant time jump, though.
Well, you've got to think in Yoda years, it's going to have to be a crazy time jump, I think.
Like,
he's already
maybe post Rise of Skywalker.
Like, I think that's where it
past
has to
15
be.
years past.
No, I think it has to.
That puts us about 100 years old.
He's already 50 years old and he can't talk. Like,
I mean, Yoda became a Jedi Master at 50.
Well,
absolutely, but that doesn't mean it's the. I mean, and the idea behind the idea behind Yoda becoming a Jedi Master at age 100 was that for his species, he was still very young at that point.
But he became a Jedi at 50. right?
I thought it was 100.
No, he even master at age 100, from what I understand.
okay.
Somebody in this listening to this knows that. Send us a message on Twitter or tweet us on there and let us know. But it's the idea, the difference between like a 5-year-old and a 10-year-old at this point, and that's a significant developmental curve.
Right, but I still can't see a 10-year-old ruling Mandalore.
But that was I get it. But that was the beauty of the fact that Yoda was a master at age 1.
But he wasn't the Grand Master.
He was a master.
He was a master, but that's different than being the Grand Master. I mean, this kid at 10 would be ruling a race of the galaxy's greatest warriors. I'm not saying it's impossible, but
that's reestablished their homeworld. Yet we don't see that in the sequel trilogy. So maybe something terrible happens.
That's true. That's true.
Gosh, that's horrible. Man, it sucks to be a Mandalorian.
It really does.
With that. So, do they reforge?
At some point, I feel like they will. I don't know when, but at some point, I think that they'll reforge it.
Yeah,
do you think that they sort of eliminated the Darksaber from even needing to be a part of the leadership of Mandalore in this episode? Because the things that Bo-Katan says after it's destroyed, and what happens with the armor at the end of the episode, where they relight the forge and all of that, and make Bo-Katan the ruler of Mandalore again. It just sort of felt like the Darksaber had served its purpose, and it was. I think they were moving past it.
Yeah, it seems more like it's based on merit than who's holding the sword, right? I mean, that was kind of the whole reason that the fall of Mandalore happened in Clone Wars
was they were divided over who was going to be
who held the glowy stick, right? I mean, Maul ruled for a while just because he had a hold of the saber. Not that he had a right to rule; he just happened to have the saber because he beat the guy.
Moff Gideon, right? Same thing.
So I think they've kind of moved on from that.
Maybe that's not the right way to select a leader of a people.
Right. Maybe it should be based on character and merit, and maybe like some democracy or something.
We talked a little bit about it. I'll go with you first, Sam, kind of last thoughts on this storyline. But where does the show go from here? What do you think is happening going forward?
I think he just kind of remains... not a cameo, but I think he'll show up here and there in different storylines where it fits. But I think further iterations of his story are more focused on Grogu's development as a character. Now that Grogu's for sure going to be with Mando everywhere he goes, now that they're father and son, I think we see Grogu's training up to become a Mandalorian, because now that is Din Djarin's charge. He's
right, and the fact that it's literally been decided that that's the case because that's what Din Djarin had to do. Had to adopt him in order to be accomplished. He couldn't become a foundling and become a part of their cult or their group, right? A Mandalorian, without saying the words "this is the way," without speaking the oath, unless Din Djarin adopted him,
right?
Which is what happened in this. So, Nate, what do you think?
Yeah, I think we kind of, at this point, leave the other stories to be told until it's right for Mandalorian to be continued. I'm sure we're not going to get an announcement of Mando season 4, really, or more details about it until next Celebration, maybe even, which is 2020.
No, you get it a lot before then.
Really? You think so?
Sooner than that.
Well, maybe D23 will get an announcement of something,
That'd be
but
cool.
I don't think we'll be getting much at this point of Mandalorian, but maybe a cameo here and there, maybe a mention at some points, but other than that, I think it's pretty much...
It doesn't matter because Din Djarin and Baby Yoda are going to show up in all of the other series and take over 3 or 4 episodes.
You better not take over Rebel Season 5.
Ahsoka, you mean? So, like in Book of Boba Fett.
Right.
Yeah. One last question about that before we kind of wrap up with final thoughts on the season. But do you think that that good old Din Djarin goes over to his buddy Grief Karga in Navarro, borrows
and asks for boxing lessons?
No, borrows a shuttle large enough for him and Grogu and a third or fourth person, and heads on over to that planet from season 1 and picks up Omera and asks her to
not right
to
now.
come.
No, because he went through all the trouble of getting reinstituted into the covert because he removed his helmet in front of someone. He's not going to go grab a chick and marry her.
Yeah,
and
but
then
how
have to
does
do
that, like, let's just like say that that's one of the weird things about that we don't know about that, because Paz Vizsla had a kid. So there's got to be marital relations.
Yeah.
Maybe
among
they
the
just
cult.
it's just the helmet that has to stay on. Maybe
Got weird so
PG.
fast.
I didn't say anything else. But maybe that's it.
All righty.
You want to switch your dad moment, Dad?
No, we're gonna move. We better cleanse our minds of before the dad moment. But I'll start with you, Sam. Seasons 1, 2, or 3. Right? Where do you rank these? What's your ranking of Mandalorian seasons?
It's tough. It's really tough because they all have really, really great moments in there. I'm gonna put 3 at the top just because it has so many implications to the larger story.
Really?
Mando 1 and 2 are great. Don't get me wrong, but this one has more implications.
But this one
for the
impacts the
overall story.
future of Star Wars more?
Right.
Interesting.
It's tough for me to rank 1 and 2. 1, just because it had so many incredible moments. You have Baby Yoda showing up, right? You've got the finale where Baby Yoda shows, the Force and saves him from the Purge Troopers and all of that, right? There's some really, really, really great moments. And then season 2 had
all the cameos.
Boba Fett,
Cobb Vanth, Ahsoka,
right.
Bo-Katan shows
Luke.
up. Luke on it. Yeah.
It's really tough to rank those two. I'd probably put them at 1A or like 2A, 2B. For it, but I think 3 is the best just because of the overall story implications.
Okay, what about you, Nate?
Yeah, I gotta say 3 is the best, just because
Really?
it felt. This is the Mandalorian, and this had the first season where it was just all about Mandalore and all about Mandalorians, and it just each episode was actually really good. There wasn't an episode that missed, even the weird detective buddy cop.
I like that episode.
It was a fun
episode. It was a fun episode that kind of just gave us a little break from what we were wanting, but it was a lot of fun. And every episode had a lot of implications, and it was good. Even the Pershing episode was good. It felt like Andor. I enjoyed it. And then, so season 3, I'd have to say season 2, strictly because of that Ahsoka episode, because that was just awesome and set up the show and Thrawn and Rebels season 5 and all that stuff.
So you think each season's gotten better?
Yes, I'd have to say.
So you go 3, 2, 1.
I love season 1. Don't get me wrong. None of these are like, I don't think that this one's good. I love season 1. I love season 2. And I love season 3. I think they're all great. And it's a very tight race, but that's just how I would rank them.
I am genuinely surprised by this,
What are you going
guys.
to do? 1, 2, 3?
No.
1, 3, 2?
No.
2, 3, 1?
Just let
2,
me
1,
talk.
3?
Let me talk. Okay.
I can guess it.
if you've listened to our conversations about the Mandalorian this season, I don't think anybody could mistake me for saying that I didn't love this season.
Yeah.
I loved this season. I thought it was a blast.
All the seasons have been great.
But I would rank this the worst of all 3 seasons. Not that it was bad. It was fantastic. But it's not, for me, it wasn't as good as the others. I would have ranked them 2, 1, 3.
I guessed it.
2 because...
You named just about every permutation possible.
Luke... all those moments, all those cameos.
Yeah.
It felt like
Cameo of the week kinda
every
guy.
episode somebody was showing up. We got the first mention of Thrawn in this, which then meant when Ahsoka showed up and they mentioned Thrawn at the end of that episode, it's like, all right, let's go. Ezra's coming back. So that kind of thing surprises me that you didn't rank that in that point. You get Luke at the end, and that episode is just it is the best episode.
I was just disappointed it wasn't Ezra.
It is the best episode of The Mandalorian.
For me, don't get me wrong by any means when I say this, but I feel like cameos are, for lack of a better term, cheap or lazy way to get reactions.
Wow.
I love them. I loved them. All the cameos were awesome. They brought back Boba Fett. I loved every single cameo. They were great. But that is not a substitute for substance in the story. If season 4 ended up being like season 2 again with a cameo a week, you would not hear a single complaint from me whatsoever.
Okay.
But in my mind, a more impactful story ranks above that for me.
I guess it just goes to confirm what we've said on this show for 5+ years, right?
That Nate and I are smarter.
No, definitely not. That all Star Wars is good Star Wars.
Yes.
and you're allowed to have difference of opinions on it, but just keep it light side. And I think that's what we saw with this. It was all awesome.
Oh, yeah.
And our rankings can be a little bit different, but this was a fun season.
Absolutely.
I am your father.
I think all of us loved the idea of Grogu coming back to help Din Djarin escape. The 3 seasons have, in a lot of ways, been building up towards this type of a moment. But one thing I truly find beautiful about this is the lesson it can teach us dads. Sometimes we just can't do it ourselves. If I were Din, I would be wanting Grogu to get as far away as possible in that moment. But Din wouldn't have made it out without Grogu. And when he showed up, Din had a choice to make, and he chose to take Grogu's help. As a dad, this is a lesson I'm still trying to learn. Thank you so much for listening to the show. Please follow us on whatever podcast app you're listening to us on. I don't know if it's YouTube, I'd be telling you to smash down the subscribe button, and ring the bell. But however your app works, do that so you stay up to date on the new episodes, because we've got some big stuff coming out. I wish I could tell you more. The reality is you just have to be following our social media, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, those channels. You need to be following those, because something is going to be happening on May the 4th that if you aren't following us on those platforms, you're going to miss it. And so whatever you have to do to get notifications and to stay up to date on those, make sure you do that, because this has been in conversations and in the works as far as an idea for well over a year. And the planning for this has been going on for a few months now. But what's exciting is not what's going to happen on May the 4th, but what is going to happen after the May the 4th that we are announcing at that time. We need you to be a part of that. Can't wait for you to hear what's in the works on that. And then please, while you're at doing all this amazing stuff and staying in tune with the show, make sure that you give us a rating and review on whatever podcast app you're listening to us on, because that does help so much with us knowing a little bit more about what's going on with our listeners, as well as telling the podcast apps that you love the show. And it makes you know how it is in the world we live in today. It's all about algorithms and that type of thing. So when you give us a rating and review, it helps the show tremendously. I think that's pretty much it. I guess I'll leave you. Next week, we're talking about Star Wars Visions Volume 2. We had the privilege of seeing some screeners for that. So we're going to give a completely non-spoiler conversation about Star Wars Visions Volume 1 and some of the takeaways that we have from Volume 2 without giving you any spoilers, so that'll get you excited about its release on May the 4th as well. So in the meantime, thank you again so much, and
may the Force be with you always.
This party's over.
I like that Wookiee.
Don't get technical with me.